Okay, so let's start with today's session. This will be a continuation of yesterday's session. Today we'll be seeing at some image-based pictures and topics on ultrasound in obstetrics in the second trimester. So as we discussed yesterday, in the second trimester, the major obstetric scan that we do is the anomaly scan to see if all the organs of the baby has been developed properly. So the first will be, like I said, to check if the baby has any anomaly. And another important scan finding is to see where the placenta is, to see if it is low-lying or if there is placenta previa, in which case the management will differ. You will have to keep her on prolonged follow-up. Also, you need to check the cervical length to see if she is at the risk of cervical incompetence. And the liker is also checked, but this will be dealing in tomorrow in the third trimester. Okay. So first, let's look at some of the common anomalies that we can see in second trimester. The most important one is anencephaly. Anencephaly, in fact, is the earliest anomaly to be detected by scan, even as early as 12 weeks. You don't have to actually wait till the 5th month scan. And the way you identify is it will have frog eye appearance. So this is the face of the baby. And if you see, you can see two hollow eye-like structure. And usually there will be a cranium, a nice white structure like cranium that is not present in this. So there will be absence of cranium and frog eye appearance. This is how you diagnose anencephaly on ultrasound. And you will not be able to measure the biparietal diameter because there is no skull. Okay. The other kind of neural tube defect is the spina bifida. This can be a variety of presentation like meningocele or meningomyelocele. Basically, this is because the neural tube does not fuse, and meningocele is only when the meninges protrudes out. Meningomyelocele is when the meninges along with the nerve bundle also protrudes out. So if you can see here, this track-like structure is the baby's fetal spine, and these are the rib cages, okay? And from the spine, you can see a lump that is arising, and this is one of the features. It can be meningocele or meningomyelocele. It is spina bifida. The other feature will be in the skull. If you notice, it is not nice and oval. It has a denting on either side, and this is called as the lemon sign. And also, if you look at the cerebellum, it is bowed like a banana. It usually fills the entire posterior fossa, but in this case, it is bowed. It looks like a banana. So this is called as the banana sign. So these two signs are also very specific of spina bifida, and it can be associated with a syndrome called Arnold-Chiari syndrome. So let's briefly look at a few points regarding neural tube defect. It is the second most common anomaly in the babies. The first will be cardiac anomalies. Okay, and it is a spectrum of disorder. There can be anencephaly. There can be cephalocele. Cephalocele is protrusion of the meninges through the skull. The skull is not fused properly and the meninges protrude through the suture lines. If the brain tissue also protrudes, it is called encephalocele. Okay. And the third is the spina bifida that we already discussed in the previous slide. So basically any maldevelopment in the brain or the spinal cord, either it is not developed or it protrudes through its normal covering, is called neural tube defect. And there are some causes, genetic and environmental. There can be family history. In fact, if one baby is affected, the recurrence rate is around 3 to 5%. If two children are affected, it is almost double. It is around 10%. And if one of the parent is actually a parent with neural tube defect, the risk of it transmitting to the baby is around 5%. Okay. And environmental causes can be because of high sugars, like in diabetes, or exposure to very high temperature early on in pregnancy, or some drugs, especially anti-epileptic drugs like valproic acid, carbamazepine, thalidomide, and efavirenz that we use in heart treatment. So these drugs are associated with neural tube defect occurrence. All right. So next, how do you diagnose? You diagnose by doing a test called maternal serum alpha-fetoprotein. Alpha-fetoprotein is a type of protein that is produced by the fetus in the yolk sac and in the gastrointestinal system of the fetus. When the baby is not covered properly, when there is a gap in the baby's covering, like in neural tube defect, like the spinal cord is not fused properly, or if there is a breach in the skin, or any place there is a gap, this maternal serum, the alpha-fetoprotein can escape through the baby's body to the amniotic fluid, and this can enter the mother's circulation. And you can detect this in the mother's blood sample. So you do this between 15 to 20 weeks of gestation. And if the value is more than 2.5, multiples of median. Multiples of median means in a normal patient without any neural tube defect, you take the value of maternal serum alpha-fetoprotein. You consider this as the standard, and that will be 1 mom. And if the patient with neural tube defect, if the value is more than 2.5 times the normal value, that is when you call it as 2.5 times MOM. This is a indicator that the baby might have neural tube defect, in which case you will offer her first ultrasound scan to see if the baby has features like, frog eye or lemon sign and any bulges from the spinal cord. And also you will offer her amniocentesis, because this is the definitive test. It can diagnose 100% if the baby has some kind of a genetic disease associated with it. That's about the diagnosis. Now, how can you prevent this? You can prevent this in a normal low-risk patient by giving 400 micrograms of folic acid preconceptionally. Ideally, it should be taken 3 months before conception to the entire first trimester till 12 weeks of gestational age. And by doing so, it can decrease the risk of neural tube defect by almost 80%. Okay. For a patient with high risk, such as patient with diabetes mellitus or taking anti-epileptic drugs. Now we saw that these are high risk patients, right? These are risk factors for developing neural tube defect or family history. Any patient you think has already a baseline increased risk of having neural tube defect, you give them 4 milligram of folic acid so that they have a reduced chance of developing the baby with neural tube defect. All right. Now this looks like it actually is, if you can see, this is a sagittal section of the baby. This is the face and this is the thorax. Okay. And actually this looks like increased NT, right? Nuchal translucency, but actually this is increased space of jugular lymphatic sac, and it is seen in Turner syndrome. So this is another spotter, and this is usually lethal, and you'll have to terminate. This is cystic hygroma. And this is different from increased nuchal translucency. This is because of collection of fluid in the jugular lymphatic sac of the baby, and it is commonly seen in Turner syndrome, and you need to offer the patient termination of pregnancy. All right. 2 common abdominal wall defects. One is gastroschisis and the other is omphalocele. The difference, let's see the differences. Now again, 2 sagittal section, and this is the abdominal wall, and if you can see, there is an irregularly outlined structure that is coming out of the abdominal wall. Whereas here, there is a smooth structure that is coming out of the abdominal wall. In gastroschisis, there's bowel herniation into the amniotic fluid, which is not covered by any structure. There is no peritoneum or anything else that covers. So because of that, there is an irregular outline because the bowel is freely floating in the amniotic fluid. And it is usually seen arising from the right side of the umbilicus. The herniation is from the right side of the umbilicus most commonly. All right. And usually this has a good prognosis. It can be repaired by surgery after the baby is born, and it is not associated with any other aneuploidies like trisomies or any other genetic syndrome. Whereas omphalocele will be covered by the amniotic sac and the peritoneum. See, it is covered by a thin lining here. That's why this has a smooth curvature. Okay. And usually this has a bad prognosis because omphalocele is a part of some other syndrome or genetic disorders or anomaly. And that's why it is difficult. Even if you correct it surgically, the baby might have some other genetic disease or some other anomaly. And because of that, it might be lethal. So these are the differences between gastroschisis and omphalocele. Now let's look at MCQ. 35-year-old primary gravida has done an anomaly scan, and it following is the ultrasound report. And this is an abdominal cross-section. It's already given. A circular, this is, you're cutting the abdomen of the baby and looking from the top. And you can see two bubble-like structure. Okay. So the question is asking where is the level of atresia or where is the obstruction? The options are esophagus, stomach, duodenum, and jejunum. Now, this is called as the double bubble sign, two bubble-like structure, and this is seen in duodenal atresia because the stomach and the duodenum. Okay, so if there is a obstruction in the duodenum will blow up and this will cause one bubble, and the stomach will also blow up, will dilate. So the stomach and the duodenum dilates to cause two bubble-like appearance. All right. So the answer, and this is usually seen associated with other condition as well, like Down syndrome, and the patient might also have other anomalies like cardiac anomalies and other gastrointestinal abnormalities as well. So you have to rule out all of these conditions: Downs, cardiac anomalies, and other gastrointestinal anomalies. So the answer here will be duodenum. If the atresia is at the level of esophagus, then there will be no bubble. If the atresia is at the level of stomach, the stomach alone will dilate and cause one bubble appearance. And if the obstruction is at the level of jejunum, stomach, duodenum, jejunum, all three will dilate because the obstruction is at the level of jejunum. The previous three structures, jejunum, duodenum, and stomach, will dilate and cause three bubble-like structure in the ultrasound. Now, the next thing will be to look at the cervical length. Cervical length is normally done for all patients, even in low-risk patient in anomaly scan, but you should definitely do it in a patient who has presented with previous history of cervical incompetence or previous history of preterm labor. In these patients, it is even more important. You should not miss doing this scan. So this is a transvaginal ultrasound. Okay, let's orient ourselves. This is the cervix. You're looking from the side. It's a sagittal section. This is the anterior lip of the cervix, posterior lip of the cervix. This will be the internal os, and this is the external os, and this white curve-like structure is the baby's head, fetal head. I hope clear, you guys are oriented, and this is the cervical canal, and this is what you're measuring. Okay, and the normal measurement should be more than 2.5 centimeters. If it is less than 2.5 centimeter, there's an increased chance of patient going into cervical incompetence, and you'll have to offer her a treatment of progesterone or cervical stitch to prevent the baby from getting aborted, getting expelled. Okay. Now, you might have read that there are signs of cervical incompetences. First, there will be a Y-shaped opening, and then there will be a V-shaped opening, and then U-shaped opening of the cervix. So if you can see, this is the bladder. Okay, again sagittal section, transvaginal scan. This white structure is the baby's head, and this is the cervix. Now if you compare with the previous slide, can you see that the black fluid is coming till below? In the previous slide, both the cervix slits were adherent to each other and the canal is a thin black line, whereas this is U-shaped. So this is a very advanced cervical incompetence. Now this is something like V-shaped, right? Again, this is the head and this is the external os. Internal os is open here and it is V-shaped opening. This is also quite advanced cervical incompetence. Just for your orientation, this is the anterior lip and this is the posterior lip of the cervix. This will be the fetal head. Anterior lip of the cervix, posterior lip of the cervix. Now can you see here also the internal os is opened and here it is a Y-shaped opening. It is open till here but it is closed closer to the external os. It is not fully opened up yet. So this will be Y-shaped incompetence. It is still in the beginning stage of the incompetence. So these are some of the ultrasound images of cervical incompetence. So it will usually be a transvaginal scan. Look for the baby's head first. It will be a nice white structure and either the cervical lips will be in approximation with each other or it will be opened up to cause a Y, V or U-shaped black color structure. That is, the cervix is opening up. Alright. So that ends today's discussion on second trimester scans, the common second trimester scans. And tomorrow we'll be continuing with the third trimester ultrasound scan. Hope that was useful. Thank you guys.
Best training, peaceful environment, PG medical entrance exam preparation were my expectations. I got them at Speed Medical Village in Kanchipuram. Today, I am a PG topper.
Speed Medical Village, a unique eco-friendly campus dedicated for PG preparation. Speed Medical Institute, a complete solution for medical education.